Putin, Trump, and Zelensky's shadow, what Moscow is really talking about. The Russian programme 60 Minutes, true to its format of propaganda anxiety, was entirely devoted to an urgent topic on August 7th. The expected meeting between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. At first glance, the plot looked like news about peace initiatives. However, behind this media spectacle, one can see the classic Kremlin tactics: divide, influence, impose your terms. Peace on the Kremlin's terms? According to the official version, Moscow and Washington are working on a bilateral meeting between Putin and Trump, while the idea of a trilateral format with Zelensky's participation was allegedly mentioned, but rejected by Russia without comment. The message is clear. Moscow wants to talk about peace without Ukraine and without Europe. And if Zelensky is to appear on camera, it will only be as an outside listener. There are no specifics in the statements, but the atmosphere is tense. Trump called European leaders. The White House is discussing the meeting location. The United Arab Emirates is a possible venue. In parallel with this, a narrative is presented about the imminent end of the war, which, in fact, is associated not with real concessions, but with the expectation of the correct result. Europe is not a participant, but an observer. If we are to believe the Russian formulations, the United States, represented by Trump, is conducting confidential negotiations with Moscow on territorial concessions to Ukraine, which have yet to be discussed with the Europeans and Kiev. At the same time, it is actively suggested that Trump is personally interested in closing the issue and will act quickly, even bypassing the usual diplomatic channels. The entire structure serves one purpose: to demonstrate to the West that the issue of war can be resolved behind the scenes, at the American-Russian level, and that Europe's participation in this process is optional. Why does the Kremlin need this legitimization of negotiations without Ukraine? Propaganda promotes the idea that Russia and the United States can decide the fate of the conflict themselves. This returns to the logic of Yalta and spheres of influence, an approach that is categorically unacceptable in modern Europe. Betting on Trump. The whole structure rests on the fact that Trump is a more compliant partner, inclined to a quick deal. Moscow shows that it has bet on him and expects political dividends from him. Fatigue of Europe. Russian television exploits the idea that Europeans are tired of the conflict and agree to any decisions, if only to return stability. This is a false but dangerous belief. It all depends on how the sentencing processes develop. Fox News, citing sources in the White House, reports that it was Putin who proposed a meeting with Trump. So, where will it take place? At this moment, it is not known for certain, but there is reason to believe that it will be neutral territory. History in recent times is, as a rule, Arab states. Today, Putin is holding talks with the President of the United Arab Emirates, Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. This is a significant meeting against the backdrop of news about talks with Trump, and his main promise is to drop oil prices. We had very good talks with President Putin. There is a very good chance that we can put an end to this conflict. It has been a long road, and it continues to be a long one. There is a good chance that the meeting will take place very soon. What was the breakthrough? Did Putin make some concessions that he was not ready to make before? I do not call this a breakthrough. We have been working on this for a long time. There are no American soldiers in Ukraine, but I feel that I have to stop this. This is not my war. This envoy of the US President Steve Witkow went to Moscow. He had a productive meeting there in terms of what was discussed, which was details that were not known before, ideas on how to end this war. Let me remind you that this is our goal. The president wants to end the war. So in that sense, it was a productive meeting. Europe must be on guard. The 60 Minutes propaganda piece is not just TV chatter, it is a signal. The Kremlin is trying to play the card of a new security conference behind closed doors, in which Ukraine will be an object, not a subject, and Europe an observer, not a participant. Moscow's rhetoric is extremely cynical. Talk of peace is a cover for pressure. Diplomacy is a screen for dictatorship. And so the main conclusion for the European audience is simple. Do not allow a repeat of Munich, even if it is called an oil summit in Abu Dhabi.